Today we're going to beg the question, is Snoop Dogg canceled? Did Snoop get canceled? How about this? Are foundational black Americans indigenous? In other words, is the word Indian really a scam? And last but not least, who are the Delaware Moors? So first and foremost, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Wani, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Just making sure. It got a little funny earlier. Okay. Well, let's look at this. Wani, is Snoop canceled?
Not at all. Room over.
Oh, Lord.
They don't have the ability to cancel anybody. They got canceled.
Hello.
Thank you very much. No more men in dresses jiggling their balls all over the women's room. You're going down. You're lucky if you'll be able to get married because you abused the generosity and the civil behavior that the United States extended and thought you were going to get rid of women and tell us that we are now hyphenated. Oh, you guys are cis women and we're trans women. No, we're not. We're going to be doing breastfeeding, not chest feeding. We're going to be getting called mothers, not birthing people. You stepped over the boundaries, and so now you don't have the right to talk about anything, that any criticisms that Snoop or anyone else has. You will be getting criticized and oppressed. Where you belong. Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, you brought up a whole nother sub issue. We talked about the First Amendment a couple of spaces ago, and the First Amendment, to paraphrase, guarantees freedom of speech and freedom of expression, which there's, it didn't. The First Amendment of the Constitution doesn't say that you have to be nice, and that's the beauty of the First Amendment. The First Amendment checks, from my view, it checks for truth. You can keep saying things and challenging ideas until the truth emerges. When you profess to be the absolute arbiter of truth, that's a signifier of corruption. Truth is discovered through an adversarial process of antagonist and protagonist in search for balance. So I'm saying I just kind of felt like it was imbalance with things we could say about certain groups. When anybody and everybody on every space can say whatever the hell they want about us, if I get on another space and hear somebody say the N-word over and over and over again, I've had people come on my space talking about they were going to hang me N-word, and they didn't get in trouble, they didn't get canceled. But you say something about a protected group and you get canceled. How is that constitutional, So, Wani, you're saying balance is now coming into play?
Well, one of the protected groups has committed a genocide, so they lost all credibility, and the genocide is still going on. They tried to cancel Grok, but it jumped back up. Or I'm going to say he. I think Grok is a guy. Grok, that dude jumped back up right on time and didn't miss a beat, even though they reported him because he said that Israel committed genocide, and they're currently committing a genocide and a famine. So they're doing a lot of things over there. Land grabs, genocides, famines, anything you can think of, atrocities, anal rape, anything they can do, they're doing it. So in my opinion, they're not a protected class because they're doing one of the worst atrocities that we've seen in recent times. Also, like I said, it all started with, can't we just please get married? And everybody said, sure. I don't think anyone has a problem with that. You want to be able to go to the hospital and be acknowledged as a partner. You want to be able to get insurance and have domestic, benefits. No one was against that. But what we are against, or what I'm against, is the fact that for 2 days I was argued with by a transgender person telling me that we don't need women anymore because transgenders can repopulate the earth. And I said, okay, how are you going to do that? Well, we're going to use women's wombs. Okay, but you don't need women. You just want the wombs. And they had a series of very violent um, clubhouse spaces where they said we don't deserve to have wombs. And they hate women. And let me tell you, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Every serial killer and rapist is a sexual deviant. So I don't think sexual deviants should be put in positions of anything. They're always going to go left, no matter what. They're not stable. Sexual deviancy is not a stable mentality. All rapists and serial killers are sexual deviants. That is the bulk of the crime that we're always complaining about. Pedophiles, rapists, and sexual deviants. And the top tier is a serial killer, also a sexual deviant. Um, and they're the worst of the criminals. If you really look at their relationships, it's filled with a lot of domestic violence and arguing, and they fill up a lot of these crime shows with their bad behavior toward each other. So they got a chance to be recognized, and they took that chance and became very oppressive to women. They want to invade our spaces and tell us that we're not real women and that we don't have the right to exist. And on top of that, they are horribly abusive to children. And there's even a group called Gays Against Groomers and another one called LGB, get rid of the T. So they already know that they've stepped over the lines. They have a group over in the UK and they have groups here. So they know that these other people are malignant and must be removed from those letters.
Yeah, well, I support, freedom of self-expression. I'm a big First Amendment person. I'm gonna say a couple things. First and foremost, the First Amendment. Under the First Amendment, in my opinion, there are no protected classes against speech. I don't see, I'm not the world's leading constitutional scholar, but my read of the First Amendment doesn't say, hey, you have freedom of speech and self-expression except for this group. So how is this even functioning? Can some lawyer come up here and explain to me how that works? And secondly, there was a Joe Rogan episode a couple weeks ago where there was a gentleman up there just from England who completely got canceled, like they were trying to do Snoop. It didn't work for our brother Snoop. Go ahead, Snoop. But that this gentleman made a really good point. He said that these some of these activities are gateways to abuse women. So I agree with Wani. Women are the target, and the evidence that this English producer brought up was nobody focuses on. Well, he said the terms are skewed. He said, according to this producer, a trans woman is a woman who turns into a man, and a trans man is a man who re-identifies as a woman. So he brought up a good point that the terms are not used in the proper context. Have y'all ever thought about that? We're calling. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, Professor, I was just going to say before you move on to the next point, I don't know, this is just my observation, but I believe that the attack really is against white women. It's not against women in general. It's against white women because the dynamics between white men and white women is very adversarial. In my observation, those two hate each other. And in the United States, when Lyndon B. Johnson made those amendments to the affirmative action executive order, making white women a protected class with the thought process of here's a group that we can pile on top of these Black Americans, and this will be the way for us to still keep certain rights and certain assets and things within the white community. We will funnel it through white women, because white women are actually fighting, jockeying, and vying for power position with white men. If people are in the private or public sector and you see how these white women behave when they get a bit of power, it becomes, they emasculate. They do it with the little white boys. And I think that that's why a lot of white men grow up to be either extremely sexually repressed, deviants, etc., because these white women are not really nurturing. They are antagonists with these little boys. And then they grow up to be these abusive and repressive men. It just turns into this dynamic. They do the same thing in the workplace. They thought that by giving these white women this position over black people, just collectively, they would just keep certain things amongst themselves. These white women don't have that mindset. And so I was just thinking to myself earlier today that these white men, they saw power slipping from themselves, and they were like, you know what, I'm willing to be a transgender female, because if I'm a transgender female, I can now cancel out that white woman who I don't trust, and I really should have probably never put in this position to begin with, because she's not doing what I want her to do. And so they're willing to be transgender women. So I think this has absolutely nothing to do with black people at all. Black people just be jumping on bandwagons instead of just minding the black business that pays them. But I just wanted to say that I don't think any of this has anything to do with us. It's really just a fight in between themselves, between the white man and the white woman.
Go ahead, Kush. Kush is exactly right. In 1900, according to Dr. Howard Zinn, there were 500,000 women workers and women office workers. Stop right there. That's white office workers. The IWW, the union, allowed women to join the union. Now, the history behind that is a little bit prior to that, when Irish and Italian women were, the Irish and Italians were allowed, to come to the United States, Ellis Islanders, if you will. The bulk of the Irish and Italians were women and children, and they were brought over as an exploited immigrant class. Does that sound familiar? Long story short, they worked in the textile industry making clothes, and they were locked in a building in lower Manhattan, Irish, Italian women and children making clothes, and a fire broke out, and the corporate white male structure that dominated them locked them in there. The doors opened inward, which laws changed after this fire. A fire broke out in the building. The women got trapped, and they were jumping off the top of the building in full spectacle of everybody in lower Manhattan going splat on the street. Italian women, Irish women, and children jumping to their deaths. And it started a riot, like Kush said, amongst white women. That incident unified white immigrant women. Long story short, the communist, here goes that agenda, the communist Luciferian agenda said, hey, white Italian and Irish women, join the IWW. The women start unionizing against the white man, which had nothing to do with us. And the white man sent cops and to beat them up. According to Dr. Howard Zinn, they were beating pregnant babies out of their stomach in public to make an example. That didn't work. Dr. Zinn says in 1900, there were 500 women office workers, where there had been 19,000. He says that basically, long story short, the IWW start allowing Negroes, black men, to join the IWW. And what started to happen? The same thing that's happened all throughout the epoch of time in America. White women started sleeping with black men. And that was a bridge too far. And according to Dr. Zinn, that's when the 19th Amendment went into play, which allowed white women ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind that gave white women the right to vote. So I said that long diatribe to prove that what Kush said is true. This has always been a fight between the white man and his woman. The mistake we've made historically is jumping in that fight. Our sisters jumped in that fight and supported the white woman against men, which was one of the biggest mistakes to ever happen in the foundational black community, because as Shahrazad Ali said, that's his mother. The white woman is his mother. That's his first nurturer. Secondly, that fight had nothing to do with us, because the black man has never had control, arguably never had control over the black woman. If black men did have control over the black woman, it was over 500 years ago, but there's some evidence to show that we never have had control over the black woman. Long story short, this created a division amongst black men and black women that was manufactured. It was never our fight. The white man had control over the white women. And in conclusion, we need to stop jumping in other people's fights. But I think, as me and Wani discussed earlier, we finally learned that lesson, and we're just letting people fight amongst themselves, and it's driving them absolutely crazy. We're seeing that happen in D.C. right now. I listened to our dear brother, Dr. Randy Short, PhD, talk on Tariq Nasheed's space the other night. And according to our brother Randy Short, I'm paraphrasing him, he said something very interesting. What I heard Dr. Randy Short say is all these arrests that we see happening in D.C., and if somebody in here is from Washington, D.C., please grab a mic. Maybe, Kush, you can speak on this because you're proximal to the DMV. But Dr. Short said a lot of the arrests that are being made in D.C. are of immigrants. Well, Dr. Short lives in D.C., so he's right on the front line. But from my view of the news shows it as if FBAs are getting arrested and we're being harassed. Now, assuming that what Dr. Short says is true, which I believe is true, that's a different story. So again, we see a manipulative, communist-leaning media trying to suck us into another fight. And I think we're avoiding this fight. We're standing behind on the sidelines, watching it and minding our own business. And again, I love it.
I think they may be profiling people, but ultimately the arrest and ICE is going to be on the immigrants. I can't really say for sure who's being profiled, who's outside, and who's being, harassed or rounded up. I'll try to find out some more information about it. But yes, a lot of immigrants have gotten caught up in these new arrests and this presence that they have in DC.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I can't speak to really the foundational Black American community and whether people are really being, see my air quotes, targeted, profiled, or whatever. I do believe that law enforcement, just based off of some of what the accounts, whether it's the White House, ATF, DEA, FBI, they are getting people, melanated individuals that have similar phenotype to us. I'll say it that way. Those individuals, they're getting them for things like possession of a firearm illegally, things like that. But some of the things, if you listen to what Donald Trump has been saying, is they're really trying to augment ICE, ERO Washington and Baltimore, being able to get these illegal migrants up out the paint, because these are blue jurisdictions where they play catch and release and they don't honor ICE detainers. And so within the National Capital Region, I'm not going to say DMV, the National Capital Region, specific counties in specific, like I'll say Fairfax County, Virginia, for instance, they play catch and release even in Northern Virginia as well. They do the same thing. These are blue jurisdictions that play catch and release with these illegal aliens. They do not honor ICE detainers. And so a lot of trying to get the boots on the ground to augment what ICE is doing, if anybody paid attention, Seth, I keep calling it man, Heggate. I call him a whole bunch of different things, but what his name really is. But the Secretary of Defense, even he said that he's willing to provide DOD bodies, not just military personnel, but also DOD civilians to help DHS, to help out. So the thing is, what they are trying to do, they are trying to go up there and get these illegal migrants up out of the paint. When Donald Trump said that he was sending boots on the ground out there to Chicago, because again, brothers and sisters in Chicago have been talking about the illegal alien crisis out there in Chicago. Now, again, when people talk about Chicago, I feel it's the same way with what they were talking about with the Smithsonian. A stone is being thrown in our direction, meaning, look, they're attacking, see my quotes, black people. But if you go and look at all of those museums that Donald Trump was talking about, this woke ideology and all of this stuff, he only mentioned the African American Smithsonian Museum once. Every other museum he listed multiple times was not the African American Museum. I do believe that, yes, a stone is being thrown our way for people to look and say, oh, look, they're attacking black people. But the wrecking ball is really coming for other groups of people. I could be wrong. But just based off of what has been being said, I do believe they're really trying to get a lot of these illegal aliens up out of here in these blue jurisdictions that like to play catch and release and don't honor ICE detainers.
Well, that makes sense. Go ahead, Wanda.
I was going to say, now remember, with these Democrat talking points, they're the ones that said Trump is going to get rid of Black History Month, and then he had a big celebration at the White House. So that's why I think a lot of us have learned to just relax and check it out, because we're really not getting full stories. A lot of the things that have been canceled haven't even been beneficial to us. There's a lot of government waste. Just like now, this Fed governor or something, I forget the name of her, she got fired. But she's black and she holds a high position. So the minute that you see a black woman being kicked to the curb, you immediately have a knee-jerk reaction like, oh no, he's firing a black woman. And it really is deeply ingrained in me to be defensive of black people that do achieve a high position and not want them to be taken down. But then when you look at, a lot of these people are corrupt. I mean, mortgage fraud, and even that, whatever her name is in Minnesota, she's got tons of ethics violations, and yet she's been able to just sit there with a fake, with her green card that she got originally, was everything about her is fake. And her brother's presence here in the United States of America is built on lies and fakery, but she gets to sit there. So a lot of black people and immigrants are using their brown skin to avoid being prosecuted for what they have been doing, and they're literally ripping everybody off.
You talking about Ilhan Omar?
Yeah, I mean, she has cheated in the election multiple times. It's a lot of manipulation. She's backed by people that want her to be there. She's gotten away with a lot of ethics violations. But when the moment that you see, not now, but the moment that you would see a black woman being torn apart or kicked to the curb, your knee-jerk reaction is to be protective. And now I'm glad that we got rid of the ball and chain, because it gives us more credibility. If we keep supporting criminals and people that are ripping us off and not doing right by our neighborhoods, then we don't deserve good neighborhoods. We deserve people that are going to fight for our infrastructure, to fight for our resources, and it doesn't matter who they are. I don't want to have Maxine Waters there because she's brown and she's walking over a city that looks like Beirut. I don't want that. I want whoever is going to be working for that city to look better, because it looks like trash. All of these people, Pelosi steps over people shooting up drugs, and she just steps over them to get to wherever she's going. Maxine Waters lives in another area, and on and on and on. I could go on forever, but I'm not going to.
Oh yeah. Well, back to the whole Trump issue. I've been wanting to say this for a while, but it escaped my head, and when the moment's presented. Look in the jumbotron at the Posse Comitatus Act, and y'all saved that. Posse Comitatus bars federal, the military, United States military, from acting on civilians. That's a big no-no. The United States military is, to defend against enemies of the United States citizens in brief. And when I heard that when the troops were deployed, I just knew Posse Comitatus I knew something was up with that. Now, when Dr. Randy Short said that they were being used against immigrants, that made sense to me, because is an illegal immigrant, considered a citizen or a foreign body? So what Randy Short implied on Tariq Space the other night makes sense according to Posse Comitatus. Go ahead, Housing.
Hey, Housing.
Hey, shout out to everyone.
Hey, Housing.
I'm okay. Hey, what's up, Kush? Nikki, pardon me. Wani, Professor. All right, let's get to Trump. Trump is basically like he's playing the game, and he know what the media is doing. He know he don't have the media on his side, and he's trying to satisfy his peoples, his base, while going after the immigrants. So what he does is says, hey, go harass the black people, just make it a little hot. That's it. But the major news outlets, CBS, NBC, ABC, they're not telling people that immigrants are being arrested in these places. Westmore, it's a safe haven for immigrants in Baltimore. D.C. as well. And over there in Minnesota, he wants to go to Chicago, get Brandon, but he only could do it in D.C. because it's like a 30-day period, and he could federalize. The only way he could be able to go in these other states if he gets the approval of the governors, and don't look like that's not going to happen. Secondly, is that they just basically like. I'm brain locked. Bear with me. Just bear with me.
Fine, bro. Keep it flowing. You good?
Trump is just basically, and like Wani said, he mentioned the museum one time. Let's get back to the news people. Only thing.
Black students, we need to know our history.
The black history we're being taught in public schools is repetitive.
As a black high school student, I want to learn more about my history in the school books.
We need to update our books.
As black American students, we deserve an accurate depiction of what black history truly is.
I want to see myself in these textbooks.
In the public school system, black history is vague.
Why don't the school books ever talk about the Freedmen's Bureau?
I created the workbook for the African American family. This book helps fill in the gaps that the school books don't. Purchase the workbook for the African American family on ourstorypublications.com and use the Cash App $Our Story Publications.